So why is Kabul important? Kabul is important because the U.S. military pulled out of Afghanistan, and in turn, the Taliban has taken over Kabul. Now, the citizens' lives are in even more danger, especially women, and this is the first time since practically I've been alive that the U.S. is not in Afghanistan. This departure from the Middle East for the U.S. will affect the Middle East for years to come. Some pictures that I decided to use were these four. So on the left, we have, this is a day after the troops of America pulled out of Kabul, and you can see the Taliban starting to move in with, weapons. The second picture on the right is a family that's trying to get over the barbed wire at the airport to try to get on a plane at one of the planes that are leaving Kabul that has U.S. troops on it so they could escape as well. The third picture on the left kind of goes along with the second picture. This one was kind of more of a screenshot of all these people hanging on to like a tarmac area of the plane, which is absolutely crazy to look at. It just shows how much they wanted to get out of there. And then the fourth picture, I think, encapsulate all of the feelings that these citizens were going through. And it's a family sitting on a runway just crying because they know that they're doomed and that their lives are in great danger now. So some of the maps and findings that I found when I was researching was there's around like 20 plus locations on my Excel sheet, and I was able to map them. We had a lot in America, and there was a lot in Afghanistan, but it was worldwide for the most part. If you look at like the far right tab on the Excel sheet, you're able to see that there's some in Australia, there's some everywhere, but these were the ones I was able to map. So they were just, like I said, it was a very big event, so I kind of expected to see all of those geolocations on the map. Now, for my text analysis, over time there have been less concerning. There's been less tweets concerning Kabul. If you look at the top picture, I made a graph showing that in September there's around 200K tweets in the month of September, and then in October, it's under 150K. So over time, people have been talking about it less, which I think is a major issue because there's still a lot of problems that must be talked about there. And then for my Voyant, for my text analysis, my three main words were Afghanistan, Taliban, and Kabul, which I kind of expected. But going along with the text analysis and the major issues that are still there, in one of my literature review articles that I did on JSTOR, there was an article that talked about how citizens of Afghanistan, especially Kabul, are struggling to get water because they're dealing with Pakistani insurgents, and they have to try to fight over water. So on top of Taliban running Kabul now they have to deal with more water issues, and it's just piling on for them. So I related Kabul to geolocation. The war in Afghanistan was extremely popular due to the Taliban taking over. Throughout my findings, the location of tweets, like I said, were worldwide. Geolocation allows for one to see where someone's tweeting something from. And when, like I said, when you have a global event taking over, or like the Taliban taking over Kabul, you will see tens and even millions of locations when it comes to these tweets. Why there needs to be a dialogue. So instead of choosing the social change option, I did the dialogue because us as American citizens, we can't really go over to Afghanistan and change things. It's kind of more out of our control. But where there needs to be a dialogue, as I referenced in my tweets graph, there are less people each day talking about Kabul, and here we are in December, and I'm sure that number is even less than it was in October. There's even more danger within Kabul than there was when the Taliban wasn't in charge of it, and it's just a lot of citizens there are dying at an alarming rate. And we as a country, we must express our concern for Kabul's state right now because we have to help to try to change things. The only thing we can really do is talk about it, and the best way to bring change sometimes is just talking about it and bringing awareness, and I think it would do a lot of good if not just us as a country, but more of the world started to talk about it and tried to help them out a little bit. So for my summary and conclusion, although the U.S. military pulled out of Afghanistan around 3 months ago or so, it's important that we as Americans and everyone else in the world talks about it. My findings in the second chart show that over time there have been less tweets about Kabul, and this is an important topic that should be talked about today, as there are civilians dying every day due to the Taliban's control. It's just a reminder that just because Kabul is not an American city does not mean that we should not care. These are my citations, and these are my acknowledgments. So thank you to Dr. Eastking and to Jacob. And that is my final presentation.